meal that you don't get to celebrate very often.
We're
We're going to celebrate today with Gary Allgire, our NASA structural engineer, Gary, and Mitch Rothman. Mitch Rothman, another space geek like myself, that he's the head of the manned space flight or manned space
NASA Manned Space,
NASA
Space
Manned
Group,
Space
Facebook group.
Yes, that's right.
We got that figured out.
And thank you all for joining us today. We have a very special program here. So we got 3 of us on here. We had a Shuttle Fest meeting today that Mitch is part of. Marty Winkle, our board member and co-chairman of Shuttle Fest, is on the board over there. And behind Gary and between Gary and I is an obelisk where it all started 100 years ago. Today,
Yes.
March 16, 2026. And what was that
1926.
happened for those that are wanting to stay curious?
Well, that was the first time anybody we know of that launched a liquid fuel rocket, which was the start of really the space race, the space programs, as of starting that particular day.
By a real genius named Robert Goddard. We're going to have Gary talk about Goddard and the rocket as far as the some of the technical aspects of it.
Well,
And we threw this together here, kind of happenstance, but I've got here something to unwrap real quick, unbox, if you will. Got this box from Steve Jokums today, and lo and behold, inside of it, neatly packed with some good bubble wrap, is a replica of Goddard's first rocket there. All right. Complete with a nice little description of it that we're going to put on a display there. Yeah, there's a description there, Mitch. Thank you so much. Thank you, Steve Jokums, for this. This is the world's Goddard, father of the space age, and you better believe it. What a genius. Only lived to 1945, never saw anything orbit the Earth, but he did see the V2 rocket that copied his design.
Hold that on that.
So you're going to hold that on there. Thank you, Steve Jokums.
About the same what he had.
On their customized rocket there. And so, Gary, I'm going to let you 100 years ago. And like Gary said, how often can you celebrate something 100 years old? And though modern technology's clicking off 100-year anniversaries all the time, we're clicking off a lot of 60-year anniversaries with the Gemini and Mercury program, or Gemini program and such. So here's the man. Marty, you're going to have to bring that picture up for me. Hit image, because it didn't work on my end. And you're going to go to the next, let's go to back one. Nope. There we go. There we are. There's Robert Goddard.
Well, it's Dr. Robert Goddard. Now, he had his PhD in physics. He taught at Princeton University and also Clark University, where he got his PhD at. So this is basically how it all started. In 1919, Dr. Goddard got with the Smithsonian, and they published his article, which was called A Method to Reach Extremely High Altitudes. And it was based on his research that he had done up to that time, that liquid fuel rockets would be a much more preferable way to get to the moon,
instead of the
solid rocket motors that he first experimented with. And he started actually in 1921 on his aunt's farm, starting to build. He built his first rocket, but it wasn't until 1926 that he actually got one to leave the launch platform or launch tower that we'll see here a little later. But this is his rocket that you can see right here. I don't know if it shows up. Yeah, that doesn't show up very good, does it? We may have to put something behind it.
Yeah, let me find out. Oh, here, perfect.
Hide my face there. Oh, there we go. Okay. Let's look at this rocket. This rocket that he designed based on the $500 that he received from the Smithsonian. He put this together out of his workshop on the campus of the college.
$500 100 years ago was quite a lick.
It was quite a bit of money. And if we look at it, if we look at the top, up here is the igniter. on top. And this is an unusual position to put your launch motor, your rocket motor that you're going to have. And this is it right here. And down below, let's go down below, you will find this is his fuel tanks. And in this fuel tank is divided into two sections. It has a gas, he uses liquid oxygen. That's available to him back in 1921. But he couldn't find any good fuels that he could readily get a hold of. He looked at gunpowder, but that was not workable. So he ended up using gasoline. And gasoline was his primary fuel that he used in most of his rocketry through his career. And fuel tank, the oxygen was on top, the fuel tank was on the bottom. In between the two, he had a little alcohol heater that would heat the fuel so it would go up through the engine. Now, how does he get that up there? Well, these are not just solid rods, they're hollow. And he would pump up oxygen on one side and fuel on the other up till the combustion chamber, and down it would come. And this is what gives him his propulsion. Now, what he did do was he discovered
The engine propulsion nozzles up here.
Yeah. In 1888, a Swedish guy by the name of, I'm going to get this right here. Laval, he invented the exhaust nozzle. And he's based it on what looks like an hourglass. And that is used, since Goddard has used it, it has been used in all of our rocketry up to today. It's an hourglass, and the theory is you take all this high pressure, and as you nozzle it down to a small opening, it increases the speed of that fuel coming down, and it comes back out and expands. And this is what gives you a considerable amount of thrust, more thrust than he just didn't use it. So this was one of his secrets that he used. He had up here, he had a cone up here to protect the fuel tank from the exhaust. And this is what he used. Now, on that day, March the 16th, 1926, he finally got it to clear the launch tower. It flew for 2.5 seconds, reached a grand altitude of 41 feet, and then flipped horizontal, and then went down range 184 feet.
Marty, give me the image there, buddy. Another little anomaly going on here.
And the reason he did this, now you look at it, it's not suspended. This whole thing weighed 5 pounds.
Really?
5.7 pounds actually. And fully loaded with fuel, it weighed 11 pounds. Now, this is the schematic of this rocket. His thrust was set 9 pounds, so it has to sit on the pad and burn off some fuel before it can actually have enough overcome to the weight versus the thrust. And this is what caused it to finally lift off the pad. There's also some friction in the launch system itself that he has to overcome. So it took quite a while for him to get it to come out on that day, like 1921 to 1926. A lot of experiments. And his wife, Elsie, filmed every one of his launches throughout his whole career, except one.
The first one,
because she got too excited when it left the tower, and she forgot to pull the trigger on the camera. Okay.
So that structure he's holding on to is just a support.
That's the support.
Launch, RSS, doesn't rotate, but service structure.
That's the first edition of a launch tower. This is after the launch. It's kind of snowed, and you'll see a rod sticking up on the center. So that would help guide it out of the complex, up and out and up. But again, the reason why he put the engine on top is when he was working with the solid rockets that he was launching, they were not guidable, and he figured all the weight is in the back where the motor is, and so he decided if he pulled instead of pushing, it would work. He soon found out that it did not work, and it took him 2 weeks. He re-entered it where he put the engine at the base and the fuel tank up at the top. but he still had the same results. It will be 2 more years before he actually gets another launch. Did you know that?
Oh, no,
Yeah,
really?
2 years before he would actually get that. And then in the meantime, he's causing a lot of fires. You want to talk about how that?
Yeah, since you got the obelisk
Yeah.
there, the exact site is at the Pakachohog, Pakachoag, however y'all pronounce that, Pakachohog Golf Course in Auburn, Massachusetts, on the 9th hole. Very pretty. That's what we've got here on our backdrop there. The story I heard was that Werner von Braun wanted to see the spot where the first rocket launch occurred, made a special trip to Auburn, talked to family members, went to the exact same spot, and said, "I want to pay for a monument here."
He didn't see one. He said he was disappointed. He didn't see something. He said, "This is a very important spot.
Yeah,
It started everything.
yeah, right.
And why not you have something there to recognize it?" And so, using his own funds, this is what he did.
Yeah, a little obelisk there.
Yeah.
So
And it has this on there. It says the date and who and when. And this is later on. He improved his tower a little bit, and then he always had a wood frame or box looking blocking the wind, and he always picked out this tree. I never understood that, and you can tell by seasons if it had leaves or didn't have leaves on it when he was doing his launches over these several years. But this is what he did to block the wind. And he will increase the height of the tower to give them a little bit better, hopefully, stability. But he used his ants farm up until 1928, and he was forced off of there because of the fire marshal came after complaints from the local farmers about all the fires that he was generating on his aunt's farm. And so they told him he had to leave. Now, I always thought he went directly to Roswell, New Mexico, but he did not.
okay,
He went to 1929 through 1930. He went to the artillery.
is this still in Auburn? Looks like
No,
it.
this is still in Auburn. That's one of his latest towers. You can see. And he also, what he did when he realized the first time he launched it wasn't right, what he did is he shrunk the tubing so he had a much smaller rocket. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And you can see he's holding it. And I think I've watched 2 hours of this week of every one of his launches. And the biggest problem that I saw that he had was flame stability. The rocket engine would produce a lot of flame, and then it would come back up, and then it would come back out. It wasn't very consistent. He wasn't getting a good fuel flow. And you can see here, this one, he has the rocket engine lit, but it has a rupture, and you see flames horizontally coming out of it. But this is one of his later ones, and the trees in the background. This is obviously in the wintertime because there's no leaves on it. But he's forced to leave, and where he goes to is the artillery range at Camp Nevins in Massachusetts. And he was there from 1929 to 1930. Is where he launched the A-series rockets that he had. And this is another one where he got hung up in the launch tower, and he couldn't get it to come out. And then this is actually out at Roswell, I think, it's showing him how he transported his rockets.
World's first rocket transporter.
Transporter's right. But he has another one I think is even more interesting, but we'll move on with
Mitch, you got anything to add to this?
Well, it's interesting to know that he wound up in New Mexico on the advice of Lindbergh.
Yes. Oh, that's right.
Lindbergh Lindbergh told him about the site because there's sunshines there 360 days a year. And so Lindbergh gave him the idea of heading out to New Mexico. It was also better for his health. Of course, he had tuberculosis as a younger man,
Yes, he did.
and it almost killed him.
Let's go back to the other one. Let's go back here. You're talking about Charles Lindbergh. Charles Lindbergh did go see him and his wife at his house and talked to him for quite some time and came away impressed. And he went to the Guggenheim family because Goddard could not get the United States government to back him. So he talked to David, I guess, Guggenheimer, And he
Daniel
got,
Guggenheim, he was
Daniel?
a naval aviator.
yeah, and he paid him about $50,000 a year to sponsor him every year.
Hmm.
So that's why he was able to go out there for his health and also for the secrecy, because he became kind of a recluse because of all the negative criticism that he was getting leveled at him.
We'll see here in a few minutes, newspaper articles. The New York Times
Yeah.
said that he didn't have the education ladled out to normal high school science classes.
And then,
And when he said he was going to go to the moon, he was branded a lunatic.
oh
and,
yes, he
and
was.
and very
A
and
quack.
another recluse, by the way, that supported him, Lindbergh, just told him just ignore it. Lindbergh, very famous also for mentoring Neil Armstrong to quit signing anything, or you'll never ever sit down anywhere
Yeah.
where people aren't wanting you to sign something. Yeah, Lindbergh's quite a lot of good Lindbergh stories in the space
Lindbergh,
program.
he went out in 1935 to witness one of Goddard's launches. Unfortunately, they had to make 2 attempts that day, and both attempts they couldn't get it off the ground. But Lindbergh asked Goddard to take that rocket and store it someplace and keep it. And so what they did, and it's now at the Smithsonian.
Oh wow!
And it's the only rocket that he's got that's
Really?
at the Smithsonian that survived.
Huh?
My understanding is that Lindbergh nor Guggenheim ever saw a live launch.
Yeah.
That the only launches they ever saw were filmed by Esther,
Yeah.
Mrs. Goddard.
Yeah.
Huh.
Just by happenstance.
Yeah, very. Didn't have money. Lots of money. What could he have done with lots of money?
Well,
And people not calling him a crackpot, that he would have been.
that's right.
So Gary's going to tell us here. This is celebrating the 100th anniversary of the great Goddard. His first flight, Goddard's name immortal now in space history. You'll see how we immortalized him just a few blocks from here at Spaceview Park.
And in 1932 through 35 was his first
Go
A
back,
series.
go back one, Marty, please.
His first A series, where this is his first A series right here, and this is where he's realized to make this thing be guidable, he had to come up with something. So what he's going to do is he's going to come up with a guidance system. He's going to develop the first actual guidance system for a rocket. This is at his shop out there, building up an A2 rocket, or A7 rocket, excuse me. And this is
You're not doing that, are you, Marty?
No,
You advancing him?
no.
oh, okay, so,
Yeah, we got an audit. We got a
Yeah.
little glitch. It's
I
automatic. So.
thought you were advancing it. You go back.
No, Streamlabs is.
Yeah.
can you
But
go
we'll let this happen. Look at his first observation pointer.
now can we go back?
We're gonna probably not at this stage.
Okay.
We have to.
Keep going. This is some of the
There. Okay.
okay. This
I want to see what that was. What are the? What's this?
this is how he developed his guidance system. He got on a stool that would rotate, and he would have one of his aides. They had a sprocket, took the sprocket off, and they put a pulley where the sprocket was. They would wrap a string on it. He would hold on to it, and they would grab that string and then run as fast as they could away from him to spin that wheel up. And then he would practice different turning that wheel to see what the reactions were. And based on what he learned from here is what we'll go to the next one if you can. This is his first guidance system,
Gyroscope.
a gyroscope that he developed for his rockets.
Wow, genius.
It was very simple. And this is the first rocket that he used to engage it. And if you look at past the fins on the left, there's 3 paddles or 4 paddles that come out into the exhaust to help deflect it. This is what the Germans will do. They
at the
copied
very
that.
end, above my head here.
Yeah, right
How
above
about
your
those
head, right
exhaust
there.
paddles there.
He realized fins don't work, but anyway, that's just
They
how
look cool.
Yeah, it looked cool, and this is how he started guiding him. Now, it didn't always work as perfectly as he would have liked. There's a lot of pictures, videos of him having failures where he just took off and just went immediately into the ground, or went just a few hundred yards down and crashed into the ground. And these are the fins that he developed and built.
To be in the flame and
Yeah,
use
the
the-
flame right there. And this was kind of a neat. I think this is the first version of a pickup truck or an El Camino. I don't know.
El Camino,
You
yeah.
know, it was used quite a bit. It's an interesting looking car. I've never seen one out in the wild.
Really?
Yeah.
Look at that.
And he's driving a car that went 25 miles an hour, hauling a vehicle that was supposed to go 25,000.
And this here, his actually control room is 1,000 feet from the launch site. So they're stringing cable out of the back of this van, just driving forward, and a guy with a reel is unreeling it as they
Huh.
drive out.
What an interesting photo to take.
And this is him looking at the gauges, and when the gauges got to the certain point in his left hand there, he's got the switch that launches it.
Looking at gauges.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Where are the gauges?
The
on-
gauges are on the launch complex.
Mhm.
I have a picture of him later, but they give you the pressures of the liquid oxygen and the nitrogen.
Wonder what it says above the door up there.
Oh, that's just I didn't cut that off. Okay, and then he had also about 300 feet a yard from the actual launch complex. He had this wall of wood that he would with holes in it, or they spaced the opening between two 2x4s where they could look through that and take pictures. But that's a unique way for a kind of a little bit of a blockhouse, if you want to call it that.
So this is first launched in 1926. So this is 10 years later?
This is 10 years later. This is between 1932 to 1935.
So he's seen World War One and explosions, and I mean, I can't believe how much guts they had
You
to
know,
be that close.
in all this videos that has been recorded that I've looked at, there's only one that actually kind of exploded. He had blowouts, but he never had a real big failure. And I think the next picture, let's go and see it. Yeah,
There we go.
Mitch is in the way. Can you move, Mitch? Can you move a little further?
There we show.
Go away.
Or right there.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. They're in
Yeah.
a bunker.
He dug out a space where you could go down into it, and he had this wall with holes in it, so you're very close to the pad. Here's one here that I think kind of blew up.
That's
And
Yeah.
you'll see pictures with the complex around it, and you'll see pictures without it. And I do have one picture coming up where it totally destroyed the pad. Go back to A11.
There are
I
the
think
gauges.
the Streamlabs just took over again,
Again.
Marty. There's the gauges you were
There's the
talking
gauges
about.
that he's
He was
looking at.
through my telescope. All right. And the gauges were pressure gauges,
Pressure gauges and
electrical flow, or
that I don't think so. I think it was just pressure from the oh yeah, it really advanced here. This is what he designed. This is Goddard designed the bazooka. He's the father of the
is that right?
Yes, he is.
Huh.
It's one of his patents. It was used in World War I and World War II. A11. He had this wood board up there held on by a C clamp.
I see.
For every launch, it would go from A1 to whatever launches he's going to do. So they had it recorded so he could go back and look at those particular launches.
Well, A11. Huh.
Yeah, that's for the A series.
Okay.
And we're out of sequence here, but that's okay. Yes, we are out of sequence. Yes. I'll get to this at the end if we can.
No, that is your last slide there. That's that one.
Is that all we did?
And then it's
Okay.
skipping
Okay.
one.
Goddard has a lot of patents to his name.
Oh, I got one of these over here.
And he invented the guidance system, the gyro. He ended up having to realize that to get high pressures, a tank of pressure in it was too heavy. But if I could do another way to get pressure up, was to use turbines. Now he went to all the turbine companies in the area and says, "Can you build me a small turbine that will fit inside of a rocket?" And they told him, "No, we cannot do that. We don't work with small turbines. We work with big turbines for power plants and so forth." And so he went back to his lab and he actually manufactured his own turbines. And he came up with the idea, in which the Germans copied and we still use today, where you have a turbine, you provide a heat source to it to spin it up, and connected to that turbine is a shaft connected to two other turbines, one for your oxidizer and one for your fuel. That's how we spin this thing up. We use fuel to get this thing going, and we use fuel to keep it going. Okay. It's called an open loop. Now, the Russians came up with a closed loop system where they take the oxidizer and they run it through, and they have a fuel, they run into a chamber, it ignites. And then, here we go. This is the closed loop. This is open loop. Excuse me, closed loop, where they run it back into
Whoa.
the ignition. So,
Oh, we
Sure.
got back one, Marty.
yeah, we're back. Well, we
Now
really,
it's going forward.
this is crazy.
Yeah, Streamlabs is not kind to us lately.
Oh,
No, go back the other direction.
I can't change it.
Oh, you're not doing it?
No,
All right, Streamlabs takes over here. Goddard, let's see if I can, there we go.
no.
All right, now I've got control.
Okay,
There's closed,
that's the closed loop
and the
system.
open one's not showing, Gary, for
Okay,
some reason.
well, I'll
Sorry.
just talk closed loop. Closed loop will interject that spent fuel and put it back into the combustion chamber. It takes extremely high pressures to do that, and the Americans said that's impossible to build a rocket engine like that. Whereas the Russians did this for their N1 program. They actually built a closed loop system, so they're using 100% of the fuel for propulsion. An open loop is they dump the exhaust overboard, and it does not go back into the combustion chamber. Now this is we don't have this other picture on here, but this shows the back end of a Saturn V F1 engine, and what you're looking at is all the injection nozzles in there. Now they're in pairs. You have one oxygen and one fuel. And what they do, they're angled. They don't come out straight into the combustion chamber. They're angled. And what they want to do is increase the atomization of that fuel. So they spray on each other, and that atomizes it more. It gives them a better performance. Now, Goddard came up with the idea that you could have an engine with multiple chambers and combustion chambers. And the Russians took hold of that idea. And what they were doing, the RD-180 can be configured for 1 chamber, 2 chambers, 3, and 4. This gives them a really good performance. And the reason they did this versus what we did with the F1, the problem was the F1 was such a huge, huge engine. And they almost set the program back. We almost were not going to go to the moon because they kept blowing them up on this test stands in Michoud. And because they put a camera up there and said, "What's going on?" Well, they didn't have these baffles like you see now. It was all open, and they would get combustion instability. And it would walk around and then touch the wall. As soon as it touched the wall, the engine would blow up. So to solve that problem, instead of going to 4 chambers, they went this method here, and they put these baffles in that you see in this. I don't know if it'll show up here as good as it does on the picture. They have these baffles in here. Now, the problem with adding baffles, it works, except you cover up quite a few of the ejections ports, nozzles. So you lose like 5% of your thrust because of that. Whereas the Russians use 100% because they use the 4 chambers or the 3. Today, the Atlases that we launched, the Atlas V, has RD-180s, but they're two-chamber rocket engines that replaces the 3 engines that are on the Atlas that we always recognized.
This is a coaster made for us by Kevin Hotstrasser,
Yeah.
who did a
Oh, that's cool.
program on the SSME and F1
Yeah.
engines there. We got his models.
But this
That's his models that we have
Yeah,
here.
but this is all thanks to Dr. Goddard.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
the man was a genius. He wasn't a good engineer as much as he was a genius, but he came up with all these ideas.
100 years ago, we
Yeah.
celebrate Robert
And
Goddard.
he was the first person to actually put instruments on that on the rocket. He had one that had the first one was a barometer, an altimeter, and he had actually a movie camera on there. I've
Yeah.
never seen the pictures from it, so I guess it didn't work out. But he did launch that back when he was at the Camp Devens.
Yeah, we'll see some more pictures of Robert Goddard here as we're celebrating the 100th anniversary of his famous launch, and this is the paver that's out at Space View Park. I always thought that was real cool when I first saw it for the first time.
Yeah.
That out there they were honoring just not the America's manned space program, but the whole beginning of it there. So, like I said, we're billing as a trio here today. We got a few more slides to show you. One astronaut birthday, two astronaut birthdays really, and a historic flight today. So, Gary, you sit right where you're at. Mitch, what have you got to comment about what?
Well, on top of some of the patents that Gary was talking about, he also came up with the concept of staging
The staging.
before anybody, long before he actually used it. He came up with the idea of staging, and interestingly, it was his wife was the photographer, so
Yeah.
all of the motion pictures, she was unable to capture that first launch because the film had to be rewound every 7 seconds,
Oh.
so that when you see the image, you see it ignite in the launch stand and then the cloud of smoke trailing behind it. You never actually see it launch because she was having to reload the film. So the film had to be reloaded every 7 seconds. But she was instrumental in keeping his notes and really perpetuating his legacy.
Wow.
Well, not even that. After he passed away, she finished processing his patents
Right.
with the patent office. After she did that, she went to the government and said, I own these, and if you want to use them, you're going to have to buy them.
And they did.
And they did. And I saw a video of her interview when she talked about it, and they paid her $1 million.
Yeah, NASA paid her $1 million.
Well, the
Really?
government did, not
It was
NASA.
NASA. It
Oh,
was
was it
actually NASA.
Okay.
How he died in 1945 of emphysema,
No,
Throat cancer.
Throat cancer.
throat cancer. Yeah.
He liked his cigars.
What? How long did she live?
Well into the 60s. I saw an interview with her in the early 60s. So at least the early 60s.
Marty, flip up the image for me, please, sir. Our Streamlabs is about to be changed on there. So your website, what did you do to celebrate today?
Well, of course, our friend Steve Jokums posted this beautiful card that includes the American Space Museum. And so we share that at our site. What we posted is that there is no space program without Robert Goddard.
That's true.
And so even though we celebrate the early days of the American manned space program, there wouldn't be rovers on Mars without him. There certainly would not have been a trip to the moon without him. And so his importance in the space program can't be overstated. But of course, today is also the anniversary of the launch of Gemini 8.
Let's get into that in
Neil
just a second here.
Armstrong's
We'll
first
talk
flight.
about that here in a couple of minutes. Mitch, by the way, has a YouTube presence here that we'll talk about here with the Gemini program. There's the Goddard. Thank you very much, Steve Jokums, for putting this together, explaining the rocket. I love that. It's going to go right up to your model that I just put away here. I appreciate that a lot. Love this picture. He had a real rocket factory going on.
He did, and just one other record that he did, let's see if I got the date right. In May of 1935, he did something that everybody said was impossible. He broke the speed of sound.
Oh,
He was the first one that ever did it. He launched an A-series rocket that went to 7,500 feet altitude, similar to this, and went to 550 miles an hour. and broke the speed record. So they've finally realized, yes, you probably can go faster than the speed of sound.
What if they heard the sonic boom and all with it?
That's a good question. This is not reported.
Well, we're going to get on to Goddard here in just a minute, but we've got a happy birthday here to John Bloomfield, 3-time space shuttle flyer. He's got 33 days in space on STS 86, 97, and 110. Mitch and I were talking before lunch, like if you'd put Bloomfield up there as 3 names of who was an astronaut, Bloomfield, Winkle, or
Armstrong.
I probably would pick Bloomfield, but so there's a lot of interesting names out there, people that don't promote themselves a lot, and this is one of them there. Born, by the way, in Flint, Michigan, and raised in Lake Fenton, Michigan. He's a pilot and then commanded. Twice a pilot, twice a commander. Can't believe I'm not familiar with a commander named Bloomfield in there. U.S. Air Force guy, F-15s. Okay, so happy 67th birthday to John Bloomfield. There he is in an orange pumpkin suit, one of his flights there. And we also got a birthday that I'll let Mitch Rothman, in memory birthday.
Yeah, Walt Cunningham. He would have been 94 today, born in 1932, former fighter pilot, physicist, entrepreneur, and also the author of the book, The All-American Boys.
Good book. I like that book. He's
was
also
born-
got the best flat top of any
Absolutely.
astronaut in the business.
Yeah, born on this day in Creston, Iowa in
Is that
1932.
you or me?
He was
That's
selected to join NASA with the third group of astronauts in October of 1963. And of course, famously, or perhaps infamously, depending upon your point of view, flew on aboard the first manned flight of the Apollo spacecraft.
And
He
you
was-
happened to put your arm around it.
That was at a 40th anniversary celebration of the Apollo 15 flight, and
Yeah.
Walter was there. Very friendly guy.
So what was he like? Did he like talking about the Apollo? Did he
Yeah,
like
he had
talking about...
and had some pretty strong opinions about things. He and I didn't see eye to eye necessarily politically, but that's for another day. But he was a Marine Corps pilot.
Hoorah.
Flew was the first lunar module pilot to fly, but of course didn't have a lunar module.
Apollo 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was designated as a lunar module pilot. And then after the Apollo 7 flight, where the crew famously never flew again, he was designated he headed up the Skylab branch of the flight crew director at NASA.
Yeah, he wasn't completely ostracized for whatever the Apollo 7 concepts are, their insubordination or whatever. But here is the great artist Paul Caley refined sketch of Walt laid in the recumbent chair there, suited up and ready to
Getting
go
ready
around
to
the Earth
fly.
for 10 days.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes whatever, why he didn't fly again, and Don Isley is how you
Well,
pronounce
of
his
course,
name.
Isley famously was the first member of the astronaut corps to divorce.
To get divorced.
And that
they
didn't
thought
help.
that was like a huge black mark against him. So he got grounded. Wally Schirra already said he'd
This
had
was
enough
it.
with Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo.
Yeah.
But there's two good men, Gary, that a lot of resources and money training those guys.
Yeah.
And then for some, is it a flippant reason or whatever, they're not going to go any further.
They had Wally Schirra had two pet peeves that he did not want, and that was the video cameras in the cockpit, and he also wanted to re-enter the atmosphere without their suits on.
Helmets.
Yeah.
No, the whole suit.
Oh, the whole suit.
They didn't want to do that, and NASA, persisted. This is the way it's going to be, and Fortunately, the other two members had to go with him since he was commander. And the first time that they did a video show, or supposed to do a video show, Wally just flat refused. He said, "I've got too much to do." They rescheduled it. And really gave him a hard time. Said, "You will do this." And when they did it, after it was all done, the feedback from Houston to the crew was, "This was the most populous thing that you ever done. Everybody loved it and they want more." And now, guess what? It was his idea. Even though I've heard him many a time, both here at the launch complex in 34 and also in the astronaut office down in California. I'd be out there and he'd be ranting and raving. This was the one. The other one was, "I don't want to be in my suits." And a couple of days before they re-entered, they again insisted that we will not be in our suits. And NASA says, "You will be in your suits." But guess what happened? A miracle. All three astronauts developed a head cold. And so they argued with NASA. NASA agreed that they could open up their face masks so that they could pinch their nose when they re-entered. They were using the modified suits from the Gemini program before we actually went to the new moon suits that they would actually launch from starting with Apollo 8.
Very interesting. Did you ever meet any of them besides
No,
Cunningham?
certainly by the time I was around, Don Isley wasn't.
Right.
And I never did meet Schirra.
Yeah, he was told immediately he would not fly. And what's unique about Wally Schirra, of all the astronauts I've been around on all the missions, post, Apollo and shuttle, ASTP, and so forth, he was the only one. I'd go out to the pad every other day and he'd always be there. He really took interest in making sure that his spacecraft was going to be perfect. So he was not one of these astronauts that came in just a few times for some photo ops and do some little bit of work and then leave, go back to Houston or go to our simulators here. But he was actually going around.
Well, he certainly had a vested interest in making sure that
Yes, he
vehicle
did.
was safe
Yes, he
after his
did.
friend Gus
Yeah.
Grissom
Wally
perished.
Schirra wiped a tear from his eye beside Walter Cronkite when his
Yeah,
friends
that's
landed on the moon.
After
Never
he
will forget that.
Yeah, but when they did 8, he was upset about it. They said we should not be doing this with the crew on 8, and Walter Cronkite had to put him down.
Oh, really?
He'd say, "Hey, come on now, you're an astronaut. This is what the program's about. Get on with the program." They actually chewed him out a little bit.
Huh. There's a great piece of artwork there by Chris Calley's dad, Paul Calley. There. That's quite a detailed pencil there. Well, we're going to talk a minute here about a mission that would be living in infamy right now, instead of kind of little known, except us space geeks here, is Armstrong and Scott. The patch here, according to my book, shows Castor and Pollux, the twin stars of the constellation Gemini. Their light shines through a prism and then separates into colors of the spectrum to spell out the mission designation using the zodiac symbol for Gemini, which resembles the design used on the official NASA logo for Project Gemini, the 2. Okay. The Roman numeral 2. The concept was that Gemini 8 would achieve the full spectrum of tasks intended for the Project Gemini: rendezvous techniques, docking in space, extravehicular activity, and mission experiments, all of which would be used to improve future space missions. So you know a lot about this, Gary, too. There's our to-be moonwalkers, rookie commander, Neil Armstrong, with rookie pilot Dave Scott.
There was a twist of fate here for this flight because it was actually Gemini. So this was the first docking in space that Neil Armstrong commanded. And it actually, we're talking about Wally Schirra, it should have been Gemini 6 that did the first docking, but the Regina vehicle blew up.
Right.
And so that's how we had the 6-7 mission. And actually, Dave Scott should have been the second American to walk in space after Ed White, but because of the need to cut the mission short, Gene Cernan filled that spot. And Dave Scott lost the opportunity to do his spacewalk.
Sure.
What's interesting about the Gemini 8 crew, it's the only Gemini crew where both members of the crew also walked on the moon. So Dave Scott commanded, of course, 15 and Neil Armstrong. And here, of course, is the launch of their Regina, which launched that morning. And then John Hodge, who was the launch, he was the launch director, or I guess he was the flight director. Once they knew that the Regina had achieved its orbit, they gave the clearance for the crew to launch, and they eventually came within about 50 feet of the vehicle, and they stationed kept on it. And then
Here's your story on manned
this is
spaceflight.
this is on our Facebook group.
60 years ago today, folks.
Yeah, and then that link down there, you can see the originally produced video of the Gemini 8 mission. That's actually our most popular video on our YouTube channel. I think when people see about Neil Armstrong, they want to know more. So that's the most popular video on our YouTube channel is this video about Gemini 8. And Jim Lovell was Capcom during the docking. He actually urged them, and when they actually docked, they were in radio silence. And when they reemerged from the radio silence, that's when the ground first became aware that they were no longer docked with the vehicle, that they were going sort of ass over tea kettle, spinning round and round, and then they cut loose. And of course, the pace the pace of their rotation increased, and it became obvious that even though the Agena was famous for malfunctioning, in this case, it wasn't the Agena that was malfunctioning.
What was wrong? What was wrong, Gary?
They
Tell
had
us what was
they
wrong.
had a roll engine that was stuck wide open, and they couldn't stop it. And they could. I don't know why they didn't isolate it, but they ended up. The roll rates were increasing to the point where the roll engines they could not stop it. So he went ahead and he ejected that section off, which contained all the fuel tanks. And for the
Let's see the
for the
white,
Well,
and the white part of the
white parts, it's actually made up of two sections. The furthest aft section, the largest diameter section, holds all the oxygen, the major oxygen tanks that they would be using, their communications that they would be using. They also had a fuel cell in this program right by now, and they had a fuel cell in there. So they had the hydrogen and oxygen tanks for that. But all that, when he decided to have to stop the roll, because if they didn't, all the blood would rush from their body up into their head, and they would pass out. And they realized
at
Yeah.
least pass out.
And then so what they did is they ejected that section off, and then he was able to use the engines that were on the nose of the Gemini
Yeah,
spacecraft
he used the reaction
control system up there to stop it. They had 100-pound thrusters up there, I guess I was told, and that was able to stop the roll. But at that time, when they came in back into communications with the ground, they found out what was going on. They told them they had to immediately re-enter the
Well,
atmosphere.
under the mission rules, once they ignited the reaction control system, they had to abort the flight.
Well, this is Gary Hayward. Gary Hayward, haven't seen Gary in a while, Marty. Hope he's doing all right. He worked on Gemini, and this is a piece that we have in our museum that claims to be the failed part that had a solder rolling around
Failed
in it.
controller.
That stuck it up there. We have some provenance of this. I'm sort of a skeptical inquirer, but this has to have been inside the spacecraft somewhere.
That would be logical. It would be in there.
Okay, underneath the Renee shingles somewhere in the
Somewhere,
back or
somewhere in
there.
there, it would be.
So it'd be 8 of these though, each for each thruster, many more because there's
Yeah.
other thrusters. But this was the mission review report, MMR, that Charlie Mars, our godfather, had this in his drawer for a while, and said, "Hey, look what I found here! Check it out
Good
there."
old Charlie.
So and Gary, what a great guy, Gary! You're quintessential electrical guy. He's just really something else. Made us a tester for fluorescent lights and stuff like that. And I haven't seen him in a while. Big ham radio operator guy. We haven't seen. Look what's in the back there, Marty. Is the gray thing is the rescue, heavy rescue that for the Gemini that I want to bring back in to the museum.
Oh,
We've got over at Sweet Sea right now. And there's the happy ending. Now, this was 5 hours into the mission. They'd only done, no,
was
11
11
hours.
hours,
11
yeah.
hours.
And
5
in,
orbits is what I want to say.
and that's in the Pacific. They were supposed to land
Yeah.
in the Atlantic.
So the shock of, like Mitch said, they come into radio contact. They expect everything's great because and they expected Dave to get ready for his EVA or whatever, and all that scrubbed. And because this was the only mission Neil Armstrong had, 11 hours orbiting the Earth before he would command Apollo 11. So always the demeanor on their faces looks like a happy, guys. I guess they're like if
Normal
you
day.
alive. I've heard urban legends that Dave Scott did pass out and may have vomited in his spacesuit. I mean, you can imagine who wouldn't. It was dramatically told out at the Kennedy Space Center Hall of Fame. There's a movie for that, and in the movie First Man.
I've been around Dave Scott, and he was a really strong, tall, physically fit gentleman.
Yeah,
And
so
you always thought he had so much confidence in him, and he was very impressive. He closed the Apollo hatch by his hand, pulled up on it on a handle, and pulled that in against all the pressure. And we were all amazed that he was so strong that he could overdo that
Oh.
in the altitude chamber. He really impressed the crew. I tell you
You
that.
dealt with on 15. You're talking about in the altitude chamber.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I envy him because he did the only stand-up EVA looking out the docking hatch of the LEM with a big Hasselblad telephoto lens looking at that Rill and Hadley
I thought he
mountain.
would.
Oh my
I
God.
think he did EVA to recover some samples. I think he did do an EVA.
He did stand-up
No,
EVA.
Yeah,
I know he
but
did
he-
a stand up,
Yeah,
but I thought he also went out.
Oh, definitely, yes.
uh,
Yeah, that was the first mission to use the LRV.
yeah,
No, they walked on the moon
Yeah,
3
yeah.
times. I'm just saying.
yeah.
The stand-up and rode the rover, but
But he did the-
Deke Slayton didn't want him to do that, and he
Okay.
wanted to look at the
Oh,
he
wanted
wanted to
to
look
get
and
the
see
lay
where
of
we're
the land.
driving
I was thinking of the limb when he for Apollo 9.
from the high ground.
Oh,
there.
yeah.
But there they are, safe and sound. And by the way, if Neil Armstrong was buried at sea. Those of you that don't know
I
that.
didn't know that.
Yeah. But of course,
He-
Dave Scott was in
Could
the
you
Air Force.
imagine what his tomb would look like if somebody knew where it was at?
Yeah.
That'd
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
But no,
It
I
might be
think
Chuck
purposely
thinking-
I'm
he
sure
was,
that played a role in
he
it.
was buried at sea. And I see that you've been to one of my favorite museums in Wapakoneta, Ohio. This is the Gemini capsule. I just saw it in January.
Yeah.
The first thing that always strikes me when I look at the Gemini cockpits is this looks like a fighter jet airplane.
Well, that's because of Gus Grissom.
Duh. Yeah, exactly.
It was the Gusmobile.
Yeah.
He designed it.
Not so much space. I mean, it just looks like a whatever jet fighter you'd want in there.
Yeah, he fought.
I took some real close-ups of the thrusters and stuff this last trip.
Mr. McDonald gave him permission to do that, by the way.
Oh, did he?
Yes, he did. They became close friends.
Gus Grissom designing where
Designed
things
the
should be
cockpit,
in the
and the
cockpit.
story is that he designed it so well that he was the only one that could fit in it.
Huh.
And all the other taller astronauts, since he was 5'6", they couldn't. They all complained, so they had to go back in and modify it so the taller astronauts could
Like
ride it.
Dave Scott.
But that was Gus's contribution to the Gemini program.
Marty, how we doing over there with our Stay Curious friends today? Hadn't given a shout out to them. We're just wrapping up a beautiful hour here with 3 great friends of our museum. Everybody happy today, Marty, on a Monday?
Seemed to be, Mark, yeah.
I bet Dave Staney's not happy with that cold weather up there. Just blew in again. They were bragging about it being in the 60s up in Michigan. My mom is at Findlay, Ohio.
I know he's looking forward to coming down here for Shuttle Fest.
I know that where we're at in Blairsville, Georgia, it's going to get down to 20
One more cold Arctic air blast,
30,
hopefully for
20
everybody. out
degrees
there.
down there, 20 and 25 were the
Crocuses blooming and
Yeah,
all
right.
that. And I'll be up in Tennessee over Easter here in a pair of weeks. So hopefully looking for some beautiful forsythias and yellow. I like seeing those on the road there.
This time he's happy.
He's happy?
Yep.
Okay. All right. There is the man. Let's end our program here with more love for Robert Goddard. Just a, you see pictures of him there, and I say, I bet there's a smell of maybe white owl cigars around him in the room in there. I remember buying as like a 12-year-old, my grandpa, a box of cigars for Christmas. Nobody questioned me buying a box of cigars for Grandpa for Christmas. That was back in the day, huh? There he is, obviously a post shot of doing something. And here's where we honor Goddard and the whole birth of the liquid fuel space age is out at Mercury Monument there. The Mercury symbol for the Mercury fleet, Roman god. On the bottom's the paver there. There's the close-up. First flight of liquid oxygen gasoline rocket occurred on March 16, 1926 in Auburn, Massachusetts, traveling a distance of 184 feet in 2.5 seconds at a speed of 60 miles an hour estimated there. And our forefathers of our museum did a beautiful job out there, Gary, honoring him. There's also a Chinese solid rocket paver out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to honor the original flight of solid rockets,
excuse me, yeah.
the firecrackers. And there's an unusual picture of him lighting. What's he doing up there with the Bunsen burner way at the top?
That's not a Bunsen burner. That's the old blowtorch. I mean, welding torch, if you want to call it. Blowtorch is what they used.
So is he igniting that and then running for cover?
Well, the pictures that I've seen is also he had one of his guys go out on a ladder, and he would go up on a ladder, and he would reach over there with the burner, and he would light it, and then run down and run back. Like I said, it had to sit there and burn off some fuel before it actually.
Now we know that Goddard's claimed to be the first, but he had to be the second guy.
Could be, yeah.
Because the first guy had to be blown to bits trying to do this sort of stuff. Okay, that's what I say. The first guy never gets the credit for anything or makes the money, and the first guy obviously got blown to bits, and nobody's found pieces of him. No, I make that statement. Pretty brave guy with the unknowns and stuff like that. Of course,
he was.
1926. Where were cars at? In the time?
That's what.
The Roaring '20s. You had these big Duesenbergs, and
He's driving around in a
Well,
Model
Lindbergh has
A.
already flown across the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Back in 1923.
7, yeah.
hopes to reach
Was it
the moon
27?
with a giant
Okay, I thought it
rocket.
was
All right, this
27.
is 19. What's that paper say? I think
this,
it's 2 years.
This was after the New York Times.
That's 24. That's before his.
Yeah.
May realize Jules Verne's fantasy. Okay, so he believes rocket can reach the moon. Smithsonian tells of Professor Goddard's invention to explore upper air. Instrument could go up 200 miles. Bigger rocket might land on satellite, which is the moon. And then, so they actually did an editorial that he doesn't have. And then they did a retraction.
Yeah.
In 1920, this is 26. So he was well known before his first flight.
That correction was run by the New York Times 3 days or 4 days before the Apollo 11 landing.
Of course, he seems to lack the knowledge ladled out daily in high schools, is what they said. And they did a correction. Dismissed the notion that a rocket could function in a vacuum. And they reclaim it. There's his famous book, A Method of Reaching Extreme Altitudes. I believe I saw a $1,200 sale price on that book.
Oh, really?
No, 12,000. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
12,000.
Yeah, that's more like it.
More like $12,000.
Should be even higher than that.
Or
That's the unsigned copy.
may have been 16.
I'm kidding.
There's the first transporter there, or seriousness there. What was that Model T wagon or?
I don't know what it is. I wish you never see that kind of a vehicle in any of the parades of the old time cars.
No,
You never see one of those.
Uh,
Especially the other one. that
not
look
not
like a
long
pickup.
enough for a hearse.
Yeah, it's not.
but,
That's true.
Looks like an old-fashioned milk cart.
Yeah.
There you go.
Truck.
Yeah.
Love the wheels on it. By the way, What has not changed in that vehicle in 100 years that's still being used today?
It's a good question. Tires. I don't know.
The valve stems.
Valve stems?
Valve stems have been virtually unchanged in the history of tires.
Oh,
I mean,
Oh,
fancied
well,
up here
yeah.
and there, but the
Yeah,
concept is
yeah.
still the same. There he is with a bunch of his friends. Who were these friends?
they
Who were the madmen that believed in
these
him?
are the people that would go out and help him. And notice how they're dressed, especially in the early days. They all have caps on.
Yeah.
You never see him without any hat, especially Goddard. Now here he is without one. Until you get into the late 30s and the 40s, and you start seeing them like regular clothes. But they all have suits on, and they're all dressed
Yeah,
up.
they're all dressed up.
Yeah,
They
it's a
didn't
big
just
occa-
wear
it's a big
jeans and a
occasion.
t-shirt like shuttle workers
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Did in there. That was the
Yeah, his black.
of course I
Phillips
love the
bike.
old timey
Yeah.
baseball. Marty loves baseball. You see the old timey baseball clips of
Yeah.
Aaron
Everybody
and
get-
Ruth and all. You don't see any women in the stands, and it's all men in suits with
Yeah.
fedora hats and wool suits to boot.
Yeah.
Golly. There's a famous
He's-
picture of
he's
him
holding,
there.
Holding it. He's holding it
Uh,
in his hand. That's only 5 pounds
Wow.
or 11 pounds. I
Now
guess.
Marty
Yeah.
took a picture of this. Marty, where's this, and what was the significance of it?
That's the thing of City York on Long Island.
Oh, you're talking about the Cradle of
Cradle of
Aviation.
Aviation. Thank you, Mitch. Yeah.
Yeah, a replica they have there. There's Steve Jokem's model that I'm not going to get out again, but look at how he put this together for us. Thank you, Steve. We'll put that up right away in there. And all right, Goddard explored the practicality of using rocket propulsion to reach high altitudes, even the moon. He proved that a rocket will work in a vacuum that needs no air to push against it.
Yeah.
Of course, his first
For all those
liquid rocket.
deniers out there.
Shot a scientific payload on a rocket flight in 1929. Realized vans on the rocket, or he, I can't read what that says there. I was going to print that out for guidance. All right. In 1932, developed a gyroscope, multi-stage rocket. He had that concept in 1914.
Yeah.
And then pivoted on gimbals under the influence of a gyro mechanism in 1937. Now he's getting close to.
He gimbaled this latest one. He gimbaled the whole engine instead of the nozzle, which today we gimbal the nozzles instead. It's the most efficient way to do that. But
So
he
I
came up
mean,
with all this.
just how far ahead of his time was he?
Yes.
I mean, just incredible, really.
It was. It really is.
Because he wrote all this out in 10
Yeah.
years before his experiments.
Yep.
In there. And now, what is the story of his inspiration?
Inspiration. H.G. Wells, War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jules Verne.
Jules Verne, when he climbed up a tree with
Oh,
that
with the
book,
cherry tree. Yeah.
and he read that, and he said when he came down, he was a different person. He was a man.
Yeah. Yeah, Eric Baker, who you know Eric, and Eric
Yeah.
shares us usually a Friday segment once a month with us. He was born on Goddard's birthday, which is October 3rd, I believe, or
Is that
4th.
right? Okay.
October 4th. Someone's going to tell me, correct it there. And doesn't matter. But he was up in a cherry tree. And well, I'm familiar with that. We had a big cherry tree, and I just eat my belly full of those before the birds all got them. But he saw Mars also, and was very inspired.
Well, his inspiration was Newton's laws of physics, and especially the third law,
Mhm.
where for every action there's an equal opposite reaction. So that's when he realized, yes, we don't need to have air in space. We can do it in a vacuum, which was the common belief back in 1920s, that because there's no air, there's no way for anything to propel itself in the space. That was what they taught in school.
Mhm.
And that's why they wrote those articles against him, because he says that's impossible. Based on all our knowledge that we have today, is that you can't do that.
Have the world against you, so to speak,
Yes.
and still
Yeah.
persevere.
Yeah. Now he had
Like-
people that agreed with him, and he would talk to them. but that was a good reason why he went to Roswell, New Mexico. And people would go out there and try to find where he was launching, and they could never find where he went.
Oh, really?
Yes.
There's no markers out there where he went?
I don't know how he found it. He also, this man was a genius. He actually, this is why Lindbergh really got involved with him later on, is he decided to use parachutes to recover experiments in the nose cone. And he came up with a splittable nose cone. Today's fairing.
Huh.
He would open up and a parachute would come out. It would pull out the package and it would land off to its side.
And they were also, he used the parachutes also to reuse
Yeah.
the rocket parts.
What first reusable rockets? There you
Right,
go.
that's right.
Robert Goddard. We're celebrating
Yeah.
on 100th anniversary.
He's working on a
of
small
his-
budget.
of his beautiful life. Yeah, Mark.
He's born October 5th.
6, October
5.
5, October 5th. All right. Thank you all for
1882.
checking that out there.
That's right.
We've got RJ Jubilee watching today, of course. Ophelia is in France. Steve Jokums, glad that you caught the segment today, Steve. Just again, since I know that he's there, we got this in good time. And
Yes, perfect
Gary,
timing.
what a nice little display we'll make out of this. I wonder what scale this is, Steve.
I think he wrote it down.
I think you did right.
I think it's a 1 to 5 scale.
So thank you very much for that. And we've got
It was 11 feet
Doug
tall.
Forrest watching.
Okay.
Doug, I got Doug's pictures of.
And that's all right.
He sent me a whole bunch of pictures of what's going on with Endeavor. We'll share those with you
11
later
foot 3
this
inches
week.
to be exact.
Dean Babcock, thank you for watching. CT Cubing, Tom Celentano, Mostly Park, Dave Stengy, Tom Usiak, Zephyr 002, Renato Button watching, James Gibson, Carlton Bailey, Gary Jarrow, Mark Thel, Cliff Watson, Will Be Good. I'll bet Connie McDaniel's watching. Sharon Rodriguez, hope you're watching on there. And another one of our favorite ladies, watching, Hazel Seacack Banks, watching today. So celebrating 100th anniversary of I wonder if anybody on the news is going to talk about it at 6:30
They should,
tonight.
but I bet they don't. There's too much else going on in the world, and this is
Well,
It's a
without
shame.
Robert Goddard, there wouldn't be any rockets in the Middle
yeah,
East
there
firing
wouldn't be. That's
anybody.
true.
They ought to celebrate something there,
Yeah.
but you have, and that's why you watch today, because you know we're always going to do things that matter when it comes to space. Mitch, parting shots. What have you got to share
Well,
coming out
it
here today?
was an honor to sit here with Gary
Okay.
and listen to his amazing knowledge about this, and to be able to celebrate such an amazing pioneering man as was Robert Goddard. So I was happy to be here
And I'm
today.
glad to be with you, and I'm happy because I've been waiting for the 100th year anniversary.
Yeah,
Even as a
You
docent,
made it, right?
yeah, I made it. As a docent, I always try to point that out to the people that come through the museum that, hey, we're coming up on a 100th year anniversary of this man. And we should give him the attributes that he really deserves because he did a lot.
and that's where your tour starts at the American Space Museum,
That's right.
with a picture of Robert Goddard on our hallway here as we go down between our Mercury, Gemini, and Women in Space galleries there.
Yes.
Gary has helped contribute some good pictures to that to tell the story a little bit better. So thank you, Gary, so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mitch.
Thank you, Mark.
We'll be seeing more of Mitch and hearing more about him. Follow Mitch on NASA Manned Space. And that's also, we have a Shuttle Fest Facebook page that he will be sharing things off of there. We had a Shuttle Fest meeting today, our 13th one. We had the event a year ago coming up next month.
Is it a
but-
good time to share the name of another astronaut?
Yeah, sure. You can.
So Mark confirmed today that the Magnificent Seven, as we're calling them, will now include Nicole Stott for
Wow.
Shuttle Fest. So if
Hoot Gibson, Mike Baker, Norm Thagard, Tom Jones,
Susan
Stephen Holly, Susan
King-
Kilrain, and Nicole Stott. All right.
And as Mark said, for more information, check us out on Shuttle Fest on Facebook. or go to the American Space Museum or NASA Manned Space and keep up to date on what's happening with
We're
Shuttle
taking
Fest.
reservations, $150 for the weekend. And you won't want to miss this. We're putting some of the programs together, but thank you all for supporting. It's all about our fellowship of space lovers and space workers enjoying the being around some of the astronauts that did the work, but the space workers really did the work, like Gary
Yeah.
here. So
Yeah.
thank you all for watching. Let's see, Tuesday. What do we got? This is my busy week of meetings. I got 2 tomorrow. I don't have any guest. I have got, yes, Thursday I'll be in Orlando doing a couple talks on behalf of the museum at the Orlando Museum of Art and the Orlando Science Center. And Marty, I'm working on Steve Agid to come in and do a show. Steve has a Goddard program that he wants to do on Thursday. So we may get a double dose of the Goddard.
Yeah, I mean, Goddard is the kind of guy that for 100 years you can celebrate
Absolutely.
it all year.
Yeah, Steve Agid does a great job of that. So, and then Friday we may air an interview we did on a week ago Saturday with Frank Hughes, who worked at the Flight Crew Training Building. So, catching my breath and taking a few days off away from the museum. Still always doing museum business because I'm eat up with it. You can't kick it out of me. You can't beat it out of me, Marty. And we're always going to be talking about the American Space Museum and stargazing as long as I can breathe. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Marty, for a great job. Thank you all for watching. Until Tuesday, St. Patty's Day.
Oh, that's always a good.
Wonder how many astronauts have Irish descent.
Well,
Stay curious, and you'll find out tomorrow
Yeah.
with me, Mark Marquette, as I can't wait to see you again. To what, guys?
Bridge the space between us.